Take two.
Every sports fan has an opinion. Well, these are ours. Welcome to Brock and Pep's Unsportsmanlike Convo.
Right.
And here are your hosts, Brock Fleming and Pep Cariotti.
What up, everybody? A bit more of an abrupt ending to that because I don't know how to do it where the music continues to play with the StreamYard right now. So I made the video clip. Anyway, it kind of drops instead of that whole like funky kind of in and out waste of time. Check out our new backdrop, bud. What do you think?
I was just going to say, yeah, thank you. Heinz Field, that's a beautiful that's God's country. Look at it.
It is. I'm more of a left guy, I guess, if you look at the picture this way. That's Ben Hill Stadium.
That's Ben Hill? Like Benny Hill?
Yeah, Ben Hill. Is it Ben Hill Griffin Stadium? Ben Hill. Yeah.
The sea of orange, beautiful. I love the Gators color scheme. It's beautiful. That blue and orange is just a beautiful. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, obviously. Okay, so we are we're getting close to doing this for real. And when we talk about for real is that we're going to be doing live shows streaming on Cap City Beats. And iOS, Android is going to be Tuesdays, 7:00 starting November 17th. We're lining up our guests now. So we're going to start booking these people in a little bit earlier. And we'll start pumping out the promotions for that too. So if audience members have questions, things they want to bring up, or I want us to ask the specific guests, then we can kind of vet those in an amount of time to allow us to get those questions in and some more audience interaction. There's gonna be live comments as we start going. It's I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous from a tech standpoint, to sort of make sure that everything goes smoothly. But overall, I'm pretty excited to get going.
Yeah, me too. You know, it's going to be like it's reaching different audience. I think it's going to be neat, and I like the whole premise of sort of an internet radio platform and all the downloads, and it's going to be great. And for me, I enjoy talking to anybody at any time, much like you. So I'm nervous, but I'm not. It's like still going to talk sports, still going to talk about what we know and love. And yeah, so it's gonna be great.
It should be fun.
As a side note, I'm completely branded from head to toe with stuff that you're involved with. I got my hat, thanks to courtesy of you, which I still owe you money. Don't think I haven't forgotten. I still owe you for this. This shirt.
This is my list of your IOUs there.
Perfect. It's not very long. That's good. I got the football forward shirt, which just ended last week. Well, the first round anyways. So I got that. I like it. I like it a lot. We got our new mason jar. Basically just stickers from your buddy Emad over at Sign It Signs. The mason jars are simple. You just stick it on. It's actually held up pretty well through a couple of washes. I was concerned that the sticker might peel off, but no, it's held up well. Good quality sticker.
Yeah.
So we got that. I got my coaster from Mike Herzog.
Oh, you yours. I have mine too, but
it's like I don't know, what would you call it? Like it's like a type of rock that.
Oh, that's a rock one. Oh,
yeah,
the wood one.
Oh, I got the wood one upstairs. I've got that one up in my room, and I've got this block of wood that I think you have too. Let's see behind me here. Do you have this block of wood?
I do. I'm not getting up to get it though.
Yeah, you got it. I think I gave your dad the biggest one that was made, and he screwed it to the little patio thing that he has up by the barbecue. Anyway, we're super branded in the short amount of time that we've existed. It's pretty cool.
We've got more branding than we have actual content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not to say we have shirts too.
Oh yeah, shirts, hats. I'm looking at the shirts and hats and stuff like that. Actually, shout out to Mega Sports Promotions. They're a company in Barhaven that did all of our football forward stuff. So the shirt that you're wearing, and they actually going to start doing our hats and stuff. So the other orange flex fit hat that I wear, trucker style, was done through him, and he's actually put a page together. So we'll be having that link on through the Cap City Beats website, through our podcast, in our description there too, where you can actually go and you can pick whatever color hat you want or shirt size, all that kind of stuff. And they'll do that in-house. So you don't even have to go through us to buy bulk anymore, or for us to buy bulk and try and sell it. You can just get whatever you want. Hoodies, the guy does everything. So
that's awesome.
We'll be working on some hoodies because it's going to get chillier the next little while. Also, this episode is brought to you by PK Fitness. For all your fitness needs, if you need a home workout, whether it's for weight loss or whether it's for making those gains, those muscle gains, reach out to PK Fitness. That would be Pierre Cariotti Fitness at pepsplace@hotmail.com. Yes, he still uses a Hotmail account, but that just goes to show that he's a veteran and he's been around the block a few times. But PK Fitness, so if you need that kind of stuff. I know a lot of listeners are like, hey, Brock, why don't you reach out to PK Fitness? There's not a lot you're going to tell me that I don't already know or that you haven't given me already. It's just a matter, unless you're going to come to my house, which we can discuss, coming to my house and actually getting me out of the house to do a workout or do it at my house. That's where I'm lacking a little bit of motivation. But we have house guests coming. The Shavers are coming to live with us for the next little while. Mike Shaver's a guy that, I play with him a lot of you. He played for the Bombers for a while too. Big bruising fullback. Now he's a firefighter, or was a firefighter, and they're moving down here living with us. And we used to train together, and he used to push me pretty good. So I'm hoping that that's a bit of motivation for me to kind of get back at it. I still remember we'd play squash all the time after work, after lifting or whatever. And this guy's pretty strong. But we'd play racquetball, and we'd be going for hours, squash, racquetball, whatever. And I'm trying to lose weight. I'm constantly, my whole life is trying to lose weight, and we'll take breaks. And this guy, I remember he opens his gym bag, and it's like a vending machine. It's like Henry bars and Pepsis and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, my eyes just probably went the size of a toonie. And he reminded me that he's diabetic, so he needs to keep his insulin levels at a certain rate and whatever. And I was just like, I remember the time whatever, I was naive at the time. I'm just like, man, that seems pretty cool to be diabetic and be able to eat whatever you want in that kind of sense. But anyway, he had to make sure that I wasn't near his gym bag. But anyway, so they're coming in. They should be here tomorrow, and then things will hopefully change for the better.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the plug. I appreciate it. And fitness is not as complex as people might think. And there are 5 basic components to fitness, and if you do well in 3 of the 5 components, you're doing better than like 80% of the population. So those components we can discuss at any time with anybody. So yeah, thanks, appreciate it. And I do have a Gmail, and I do have Facebook and Instagram. You can direct message me there. But the old Hotmail, it's been around for so long. When so many people use it, and my bills go through it, and I'm like, it'd just be a headache to get rid of it. That's where I'm at.
Your name isn't horrible either. Like, I don't know if that or how that just affected anything. I'm going to bring you back. I get a phone call and then my screen goes off. I got to put my phone on whatever. Did I lose you for a second or no?
No, I heard the phone ring.
The whole screen like shifted and went to like nothing. I was like, oh, great.
No, I heard it ring. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, no, with the Hotmail accounts, especially people our age, like when we got them, I remember I was a Colgate when I got them.
Yeah, so Big Brock.
I used to have Big Brock at hotmail.com. But like some people have like just ridiculous names, like, Jetstorm 69 something. And you're just like, well, you got it when you were 16 years old and you can't keep using that. At least yours is semi relevant still and not obscene, as a lot of emails seem to be. But
oh no, I remember getting resumes when I we don't hire much anymore, but back in the day when we would have a few more to hire at the gym, I'd get some resumes and like pro tip gang. I mean, pepsplace@hotmail.com wouldn't even be something I would put on my resume. I'd probably use my Gmail or something a bit more professional, but just maybe X-nay on the Hot Bunny 69 or stuff like that. It's just not going to fly well with, certainly if you're applying for the feds or the hospital or a big reputable company that's public service. I don't know. It's pretty easy to make an email now. I'm sure my mom could probably even figure it out. So,
yeah, I think we get into a point where all the names are taken, right? So next time it'd be Pierre Cariotti 6'9" or something. Anyway.
Dude, I'd rather have Pierre Cariotti 101.0446 than PK Buns 68, 69 or whatever. Like, it's just, come on, use some common sense, folks. But anyway,
all right, the new nickname, PK Buns.
Brock.
Yes,
Brock. Let's start the show with what you love most. College football. It was a big weekend.
There is a huge weekend, and I didn't sound the board ready. But here it is. I'm going to have like an intro. I got to have an intro. I'm going to make this college football intro for the videos. When we start doing live, I'll just have to click on that.
Yeah.
Where's my phone? There's a couple of pretty big games coming up this weekend. Two in particular. That is number 1 versus number 4. That's Clemson at Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame, again, the luck of the Irish, some might say. And these guys are, again, lucky because Trevor Lawrence is out this weekend, again, due to COVID testing. He didn't get cleared. So when you lose a guy like Trevor Lawrence, that's a huge thing. I think the spread, I got to check what the spread is, but the spread has been changed. And I think it's only down to like 5.5 maybe but it's still in Clemson's favor. I'm torn. I hate Notre Dame. So for me, I want Clemson to win for sure. But that being said, as an SEC homer, I'm kind of hoping that they kind of do a 1-1 where, maybe Notre Dame beats Clemson now. Clemson comes back and destroys Notre Dame with Trevor Lawrence so that Clemson has the loss, which kind of puts them back into reality. Notre Dame gets destroyed with Trevor Lawrence, which also shows that the voters that Notre Dame against a full Clemson squad is nowhere near where they should be. And then Notre Dame's kind of out of that playoff talk. So that's for me. I know we have a lot of Notre Dame fans, whatever. I also know a lot of Notre Dame fans that it's like arguing Ford versus Dodge with some of these people or whatever. Notre Dame just seems to be they're too good. They're too good to be in a conference. They make too much money. They don't need to be that. They should get more respect. They always think that they play a tougher schedule than people give them credit for. And anyway, yada yada. They're a historic program, but from strictly Brock as a fan standpoint, I'm not a big Notre Dame guy. Anyway, that game is this weekend. The other big game is the world's largest tailgate party, which is no longer allowed to be branded as such because that was promoting drinking. But Florida-Georgia game is this weekend. Georgia is a legit playoff contender, national championship contender. I would say they're probably the strongest team to compete against Alabama, who has looked ridiculous. So Florida's got their work cut out for them for sure. I mean, strictly from an offensive standpoint, Florida's offense has been pretty good. There's a lot of matchup advantages for Florida, but Georgia arguably has one of the best defenses in the country at this point. I just want to see Florida's offense go against Georgia's defense. I know Florida's defense has played better last week, but overall they've had a lot of issues. So I don't know. Georgia's offense is decent. They have a very good run game. I expect to see a lot of that. But if I just want to see Florida's offense play against Georgia's defense and see how they kind of rank up. And then hopefully Florida can build off of that from a defensive standpoint moving forward. Anyway, that game's at 3:30. I think the Clemson game, I didn't check the times. I apologize. It's at 7:30. So it's a primetime game, and it's actually Clemson -6 right now. I can't even pronounce the backup quarterback's name. The freshman, Ugalele or Uga. Anyway, first half last week against Boston College, they were down like 21 points or something, and he had to kind of work his way back. But second half, he started to make the good reads, started to relax a little bit. So I still think Clemson probably takes this game, all things considered, because I think Clemson's defense is pretty hot too. But it should be interesting. I'm going to watch it 7:30 Saturday night. The other thing is the Pac-12 is back on this week. So now we're going to get to see the USCs, the Oregons. They're a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of how many games they're going to have to play this year. And there's already talk and debate on to should they expand the playoffs this year because of the certain situation, and certain teams are going to have more games under their belt and more ways of showing what they can do. Also, more risk of a loss when you play more games than teams like in the Pac-12. So anyway, so the debate over the next little while is going to be pretty interesting to see where the board goes in terms.
Why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they? What expand?
Why wouldn't they try this? Yeah, what for this year? You know, I know it's a huge debate in college football. Obviously, it's a huge debate. We've talked about it in the past, but why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they just do it this particular year? And you've got teams that are staggered starts. You know, it's. I would say it's a little unfair. You know, you've got these teams who now have to play a condensed schedule, try to make up games. Are they going to have to make up the games they lost?
No, there's a lot of them that won't. I mean, it is what it is from a scheduling standpoint. From most of the conferences already went away with non-conference games. So all those games, like the records of the SEC, you say, oh, LSU is the first team and the first national championship team to lose their opening game the following season. Yeah, but normally LSU or whoever wins the national championship has a couple of non-conference games that are started early, which generally are weaker opponents as they kind of like work into getting into the groove. So those games are a lot easier to win. This year, LSU went right into conference play, and lost. Now LSU isn't the caliber they were last year, but that's just from a statistical standpoint. You're trying to say, well, this is the first time that's happened. Yeah, this year is wonky. So throw those kind of things out. I agree with you. Expanding the playoffs is the only thing that makes sense. The only issue, and that I would be concerned about, and I'm sure some of the traditionalists would be concerned about too, is that once you open the door to that, it's a lot easier to now have people push to say, you know what, we are going to have an expanded playoff moving forward. So we're going to do 8 teams this year instead of 4. It's going to be fun. It is going to be fun. People are going to love it and whatever. And then they say, well, why don't we just keep 8 games? And then all of a sudden you're 8, and then maybe, now that the ball's rolling. So once you got to the 4, it was still, that door is open a bit. The 8 is like, okay, now we're just getting steamrolled. Now all of a sudden we're getting into something you can't do. You can't mimic the NFL in terms of their playoff stuff. Even the NFL is going to expand their playoffs. So I think college football will, but anyway, it's I think from that standpoint, it's just a bit of a concern for people to say, what's next? If we do it this year, what happens next?
If you ask me, when it comes to college football and the history behind college football, the closest comparison, I think, when it comes to sports and playoffs, and you talk about traditionalists, I think is baseball. And baseball did it successfully for the most part. I think baseball modified their playoffs a little bit this year by adding an extra team and then making that first round wild card a best of 3 instead of a single game elimination. I'm not suggesting the college football start making best of 3s, but my point is, if baseball can do it sort of semi-successfully and they haven't ruffled too many traditionalist feathers, I think college football could probably make that jump. I mean, baseball, it's almost like religion when it came to the playoffs and the pennant, and one team makes it and everyone else falls off, and we're just not there. Sports has evolved so far when it comes to connectivity and involvement, watching sports on multiple platforms. If your team is out, there's so much money that's there to be made if your team is still competing. Anyway, college football is a very different beast, as you well know. But I think they could do it. They could try it, and if they could do it, if it works well, then you have to consider it. I mean, there's money at stake.
But it is. But then it also, the more you open it up, and at baseball, there's just so many games that a team is out fairly early, which I guess could be argued the same thing from a college football standpoint. If you lose 2 games, your first 2 games, you're generally going to be out of that hunt. But if you lose the first 2 games, you're not really in it to begin with. But from a baseball standpoint, like, I did enjoy it, and they did it from this is a wonky year. I would like to see them keep it. You know what I mean? But also, I wasn't a baseball traditionalist to begin with. I wasn't arguing how important it. Now, if it was 60 games and they kept the playoff format the same way, then I think that actually lends more to the college football model, where it's every game matters.
Yeah.
generally with 60 games, like you can't be out too soon. You're still kind of in the hunt if you go hot later on, but then you just have the same playoff format as you always had. You just have smaller games, so the regular season does have a bit more weight, or a lot more weight, really.
Yeah.
But when you're at a 162 or whatever it is, and you could be way behind early and be out of it. So that's my issue with the baseball one. But anyway, regardless, I think college football has to do it in order to salvage this season in any sort of way. And again, it is going to be interesting. I don't hope that they necessarily keep it, although I at this point am in favor of a 16 playoff, a 6 team, not a 16, a 16 playoff. Make that clear, where the champion of each conference gets in, and maybe a wild card or something like that, and then you have a couple of buys for the first week, whatever. Anyway, that being said, from a Pac-12 standpoint, this is the first time you're going to get a chance to see USC and Oregon and all those teams. And the games, I mean, USC is playing Arizona State, which is always a dangerous game. Arizona State, Kevin Wise there, so I follow them fairly closely, and they're a team that's like an Iowa State that can really sneak up on people. But the other game is Oregon Stanford. That's a 7:30 on Saturday. Oregon's ranked 12th right now. Now they haven't played a game yet, and actually they've got 6 starters, and arguably the best left tackle in college football is one of them who opted out this season and said they're not going to play. So it'll be interesting to see where they go and how they do, but that'll bring them back down to earth pretty quick. So anyway, those are the games this weekend. Other than that, I think that's all I got for college football.
Fantastic. It's one of those things that you love, and college football, I wish had a little bit more exposure in Canada when it comes to promotion. I don't think it's promoted very well here. We see the commercials on CBC. But I don't see a lot of TSN promotion unless it's a really like a marquee game. You don't see a lot on TSN or Sportsnet when it comes to college football, and that's cool. That's fine. Like, I get it. But this time of year, they might want to capitalize. I mean, there's nothing going on. There's 0 on TV. There's NFL 3 or 4 nights a week, and that's it.
I watched. So I always have SportsCenter on in the morning. 1v1. You see the 1v1s, like the best versus the best play, and who votes on it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, why even bother? The 1v1 was a soccer guy that kicked it, I don't know, just outside the crease, top corner, whoopity doo, and the champion that's still winning, which baffles me, is Teddy Bridgewater. So I remember they said Teddy Bridgewater. I said, "Oh, okay, I'm watching Teddy Bridgewater and let's see what happens." It's an effing flea flicker. He hands the ball off. The guy throws it back to him. He throws a normal pass that any quarterback in the NFL or college football can make, where it was just basically a corner route, and puts the ball on a touchdown. I'm like, how's that even a highlight? How are we even debating this right now? I was so mad. Jack's like, what's the matter? I'm like, did you see that? They call that a highlight. Like, what is this?
I guess logistically, that's still the champ, and the play of the day or the night or whatever has to beat that play. I mean, it's just the luck of the time of the year. I guess. I saw that play. Yeah, no, terrible. Let's talk about the Jays for a couple of minutes.
I thought you were going politics for a second. I was like, let's ixnay that for now, because that'll be a whole other debate. But what we're doing right now, the whole world is on their toes, waiting to see what the results of this election happens to be. I think at this time, Biden's up 238 to 212, which means absolutely nothing.
Look,
until it's all done.
I'm not a mathematician. I'm not strong with numbers, but you got 2 names on a ballot and people check one off. How hard can this be to count? Like, let's go. Like, this is something tells me this is all for the drama. Like, this is just, it shouldn't take this long. I know there's like mail-in votes. 8 times mail-in voters, but the mail-in votes were in like weeks ago. Like, let's go. Count. They should have been counted by now.
I think as long as they're post-dated before yesterday, I think they count.
What a hot mess. This is just ridiculous. Like, what election takes 4 days to figure out? Like, let's go, guys. I mean, anyway, we won't get into that. Blue Jays, rumor mill starting. Obviously, there's some couple of rumors that make sense. And then there's a couple of rumors that are, I mean, you're dealing with the core group here if you pull the trigger on something big. So the one that I'll address right away, DJ LeMahieu, by all accounts, all the prognosticators think that it's going to be him that the Jays pick up to solve their first base needs. LeMahieu in Toronto makes sense for them. Veteran guy, good hitter, power. I mean, I think he was an all-star this year. He had crazy numbers in the shortened year. They can't afford to spend like a ton. They need two positions. They need somebody in the outfield. They need third base, and they need somebody at first. I think those are the pressing needs. I like their pitching. People are arguing, well, they need to get more pitching. Their pitching was pretty good this year. I think they killed their pen early, but their pitching was pretty good. So other than LeMahieu, George Springer is another name that's come up, center fielder for the Houston Astros. But a name that just came up in a wild, outlandish trade rumor is Nolan Arenado, Gold Glover. He won the Gold Glove again in Colorado. Slugger, hits for a high average, has speed. He's that like 5-tool guy, but the cost is going to be hefty. Like we're talking, one of either Jordan Groshans in the minors, Austin Martin, and Gurriel. Two of those three guys, plus a young pitcher, to pick up Arenado. Not only that, Arenado gets paid a ton of money. So do the Jays pull the trigger on something huge like that? Arenado's signed for a couple more years, so that you're not going to lose him next year. He makes a ton of money though, but you're not messing with the core group. You still got Biggio, Bichette, and Vladdy. Can they afford to deal Martin and Groshans and Gurriel to pick up a guy like Arenado?
Well, I mean, they can. I probably wouldn't do it myself, but also from a management standpoint, now we're on the wrong side. I got to figure out. There we go. I was trying to figure out how you could be the spotlight when I'm doing it. Anyway, Jay's management, that's not their style. You know what I mean? Like the new front office guys, that's just not how they work. So I don't see that kind of move happening. I don't even think they probably entertain it on too serious of a level. At least my feeling is that they won't do that so early. They would make moves of that caliber when they're really trying to make that last push. So say like if the Jays come off fairly hot and they're, rolling to a point, they addressed a couple of issues like, you know what, this might help us this year and really sort of propel us forward. I think that's when they'll start to entertain deals of that nature.
That's an interesting take. For me, I'm kind of leaning the other way. I think, this is Gurriel's going into his fourth year. I'm not sold on the kid entirely quite yet. I think he's a very, very good player, but you got to give to get. And if you can have an opportunity to get Arenado, who's arguably one of the top 5 players in the entire league, and all you're giving up is your left fielder who hits 280 and strikes out a lot, and a prospect that you don't even know is going to pan out, that's tantalizing. You're taking on big money, but you're not giving up any of your core. That's a tough one, And if you can keep Nate Pearson and all the arms that they got coming up, oof. But that's one rumor. That's just one rumor, right? There's plenty of rumors going on because Rogers Communication is one of the only companies, one of the only ownership groups that hasn't lost money through COVID. In fact, they probably made more money during this whole pandemic. So the rumor is, MLB lost a ton of money this year. That's for sure. But there are only like 10 ownership groups that actually made money or broke even this year during the pandemic. So now's the time.
Baseball?
Pardon me?
Like directly related to baseball?
Yes.
Rogers making money because we're all sitting on our ass at home watching TV 24/7.
Yes. You're upgrading your Netflix or whatever. They've made money, lots of money, but there aren't many ownership groups that are in communication that have made money this year. They've lost money, in fact. So the going's hot. This is the 1 year that the Jays actually have a leg up on some of the bigger markets when it comes to spending money. I say, I say take advantage of it. It's not going to happen. This might happen once in a decade, once in 2 decades, when it comes to the Jays being able to overspend and outbid some of the big markets like Boston and New York. So, I say go for it. I mean, they were 32-28. It wasn't like they were like 20 games over 500 here. They were like a 500 ball club and starting to dwindle there towards the end. So, had we seen a 100-game season, I don't know if the Jays even make the playoffs. So I think this was a little bit of a, smoke and mirrors show this year because it was so, like you said, every game mattered. But like, I don't know. I say DJ LeMahieu is a bit of a no-brainer. Like, guy can hit, guy can play defense, guy can hit for power. Good player, really good player. But if you can get a stud like Arenado, geez, it solves your third base. You don't have to move. You don't have to relocate Biggio or Bichette. You can keep them where they want. I'm not a fan of like putting Biggio all over the field. Like, let him stay to one place and master his craft. The kid has done outstanding.
Everybody get an infield that is in sync with each other. You have 4 guys that are on the same page. It's kind of like an offensive line. If you keep plugging people in different ones, you never get that chemistry and that flow that you need to have. And an infield is the same way. You guys need to be all on the same page, understand where everybody's going.
Yeah,
I think that comes from repetition, consistency, and familiarity as
absolutely
those play together. So yeah, he'd be a no-brainer for me. But yeah, I agree with you.
We'll see what happens. It's early, right? And we'll there's even Stroman's name's been bandied about. I can't see him making reconnecting with the Blue Jays, especially if Grichuk is still around. But give me Stroman over Grichuk any day. Let's talk about the NFL trade deadline that came and passed. Relatively quiet.
Very quiet, which is why we were able to talk about all this other stuff. Because I'm like, again, I titled this NFL trade deadline, and we haven't talked about it.
Well,
yet.
We've got realistically, we've got about 8 or 10 minutes here, so let's talk about what actually happened. I think Stephon Gilmore was the big name, the big fish on the market, but the asking price was too high. Belichick said something the other day that I found really interesting, and I'm not sure I buy it. I think he's just trying to make an excuse for himself. He said, we sold out in terms of draft picks, in terms of giving up picks for players to win 3 Super Bowls. Now we're paying the price. I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't a word for word quote, but that's what he said. Interesting. I don't know if I buy it. I mean, is it because they've been drafting so low over the last 20 years? Is that maybe that is more reasonable? But he's made some pretty shrewd trades in order to get draft picks. He traded Jamie Collins to the Browns for their first rounder or second rounder. I mean, he's made some shrewd moves. I'm not sure if I'm buying the whole, we mortgaged our future to win now. I don't know about that. But
they would traditionally give up picks to get, like, the players that their problems somewhere else other than Antonio Brown. They've all sort of paid off, but those are generally like, hey, we'll throw you a pick or 2 here and throw us this headache that you guys have that clearly you're going to get rid of at some point, and we're going to work our magic with them. So I feel like they've done a lot of that kind of stuff, and it just, again, those are things that you don't necessarily register when you're a fan. You're just like, okay, that's a pick, and who do they get? They got this person. But after a while, you're like, well, that adds up in terms of, a depleted draft pick pool. But whatever. I don't care if he says that. If that's the case, there isn't a team or a fan out there that would not do the exact same and say, you know what, we won 3 Super Bowls, and I'm going to have to live through 10 years of rebuild. Give me 3 Super Bowls.
I also think he can't count. He won 6, so I'm not sure what he's talking about. I mean, maybe he's talking about
for those, I guess, the other 3.
He won 3 in the last 6 years. He's been to every Super Bowl. It seems they've lost a few, so it's pretty remarkable stuff. But you were saying, yeah, they take on headaches sometimes. Well, you know what? They also have dealt headaches. Like, they've dealt guys that are maybe like a year or 2 past their prime, and they've just sort of thrown them away for picks. So I think it all balanced out. But yeah, you make a good point. Stephon Gilmore was the big fish that they were wiggling around for teams, and nobody bit because they wanted a first round pick. So yeah, I haven't. I mean, I don't know. I just think that was a lot to ask for Stephon Gilmore. You could have gotten maybe a second or a third. I don't know. Get a little selfish.
You put it out there. If a team needs it and jumps at it, that's fine. If not, then you
hang on to him.
That's the way it is. Yeah. If you're not upset about hanging on, you don't need to dump a salary. Say, okay, we'll hang on to him unless we get him this. And people know what it is. And at some point they'll come back to you or not.
I guess I'm looking just briefly scanned. There wasn't that many really notable moves.
The best deal that was made
was Steelers.
That was the Steelers got the best, but I think the best trade for both teams was the Seattle Cincy trade, sending Carlos Dunlap to Seattle, which now adds basically bookend and edge rushers between Dunlap and Clowney that can compete with just about any other duo in the league, I think, when playing motivated. And, Clowney's been
Clowney's
okay.
out. Clowney's with Tennessee.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's with Tennessee, and he's actually has 0 sacks or something stupid like that with Vic Beasley, who they just cut.
Who's the end in Seattle they just got then? Other than Dunlap.
You're on.
I'm on the wrong guy then.
I'd have to look. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I had to fact check you there before you seemed like you were getting into the Clowney love, and I'm like, I better get on him.
Good. I appreciate that.
No problem.
That's also going to create an editing nightmare, but whatever. I'm living with it. Carlos Dunlap adding to Seattle's defensive line is a huge upgrade from what they've had. From what I watched against Arizona, they needed somebody else on that side to provide some pressure. Who brings Carlos Dunlap is a freak athlete, and when motivated, he's right up there in terms of pass rushers. So for Seattle to get him, but on the flip side, Cincinnati's O-line is not great. And they got a huge investment in Burrows, who's proving to be all that they expected and hopefully more. But they ended up getting the O-line, that BJ Finney back, who isn't horrible, and they got a 7th-round pick as well. So they beef up their O-line a little bit, a bit more depth there to protect their investment, and got a 7th-round pick. So between the two, for what each team got, I think that was pretty even. Like that was a pretty decent trade. Obviously it was better for Seattle if they had Clowney and it was on the other side, but apparently I'm completely wrong. So I got to figure out who I was watching on the weekend.
Let me comment on BJ Finney. He got 7th-round pick. I mean, it's Seattle's 7th-round pick. It could be the last pick of the draft, for crying out loud. That being said, BJ Finney really gave the Steelers a real headache last year. He not in a good way. Like, they had to make some decisions because he was that productive as to who they were going to do, and they ended up letting him go, and he signed with Seattle. But they drafted Kevin Dotson to replace him at guard as a backup guard. But BJ Finney is good. Really, he could start for any team, and that's an upgrade. Like you said, you've invested in Burrow. I think that's a great pickup for the Bengals. That's a 1-for-1. Dunlap was a headache in the locker room. I guess he got into it with Boyd. He's been tweeting some stuff, so this solves that issue. It's a good trade for both teams. Very good trade. A couple of late deals. I mean, again, Avery Williamson. That was kind of the first deal, so there's really not a lot to talk about. Steelers pick up a 7th and Avery Williamson in exchange for their 5th. Just a great trade for Pittsburgh because they just needed some depth. Spillane has been a more than adequate replacement for Mr. Bush, who is out for the season with an ACL. But Avery Williamson was on Pittsburgh's radar all year as a depth guy, and so it's going to fit. I don't whether he starts over Spillane or whether he comes on in those dime packages where you need a bit better coverage in the secondary. I don't know what they're going to plan for him, but good pickup. Desmond King
on Spillane. That's your boy.
Spillane was undrafted.
Played for the Steelers.
His grandfather played for the Steelers.
Yeah, his grandfather was named Johnny Latner. Played for a year for the Steelers. Was like I forget what round he went, but he played for a year. Apparently, he was a stud linebacker. 1954, and he wore number 41.
1954. Yeah, I'm not that. Like, I mean,
just saying, that's your boy. I figured you'd do a little bit.
It's not my boy. He's a good, adequate backup. He's played. Listen, he's played well. In 2 weeks, he had a 1-on-1 stick on Derrick Henry, and he had a pick 6 on Lamar Jackson. Not a bad way to start your starting career. But I think overall, he's not the answer. But maybe he is. I don't know. He's playing well. He's played really well. He's all over the field. He's making plays.
He comes from a pedigree of Steelers who wore number 41.
Yeah, I guess so.
How to make up for my county debacle.
An interesting trade. The Saints picking up Quan Alexander. It's not so much the trade itself, but you're dealing to a divisional
rival. Yeah,
I don't get it.
That's the same with the Dolphins sending Ford over to the Patriots, right?
Yes, I saw that earlier. But I mean, that's you're swapping linebackers in a fifth. So Quan Alexander's a stud. Now that I think Warner just got hurt, their other inside linebacker. So I mean, that's kind of bad timing. Kiko Alonso.
Did Warner get hurt? He's like, I don't know. I got defensive players in this fantasy league I have, and he's like the only guy that I could usually count on. Anyway.
He's all over the field, but I think he got hurt. I don't know if he didn't come back in the game, but I don't think it was. I don't think he's long. I don't think it's anything long term. So, but again, there was really nothing worth discussing. Desmond King to the Titans from the Chargers. He's a DB for their 6. Titans are horrific in the secondary. Again, though, Titans it hurts their secondary because they have no pass rush. Clowney has 0 sacks. Vic Beasley has 0 tackles for loss. That's those are your 2 outside guys who you've invested in. So they cut Beasley. He's out.
You know what Clowney needs? He needs Dunlap on the other side. It's just wrong.
Yeah. Eli Anku.
Yeah, Ottawa boy.
Cowboys picking him up from the Texans. So that was I think an under
3 Canadian defensive linemen play for the Cowboys. So you got Crawford out of Mississauga, you got Eli Anku who's there now, and then they drafted Neville Gallimore from Ottawa as well. So 2 Ottawa boys on the Dallas Cowboys defensive line.
Makes them moderately more likable, just a tad.
Well, yeah, very moderately, but right. We should also see them on TV a lot because Dallas's offense is not going to do anything.
Let me tell you this.
Okay, go.
No, you go.
Well, no, now I want to hear. Let me tell you this.
No, I mean, let me tell you this. That's a lot of talent on the Dallas offensive side of the ball, and they're squandering it. So these kids who are coming up and playing D-line for the Cowboys, now's their chance to make an impression because they need some defense. They play no defense. I mean, and they also need a quarterback, but that's a whole other
story. The one deal that I thought I was just waiting for something. So I'm curious. I don't know the details as to what Houston was asking for in terms of a Fuller or even a Brandon Cooks, what they're looking for in return. But Green Bay was not able to make a deal with them. And I thought Green Bay has to get one of those 2 guys because their receiving core is fairly depleted. Other than Devontae Adams, Rodgers has no main guy. Rodgers makes good receivers out of anybody who plays with him, but if you can get him somebody who is already good, that just frees up more Adams and stuff as well. And their run game, they have a couple banged up runners and stuff as well, so they want to spread that field. But Green Bay, I was really hoping they were going to pull the trigger on one of them, but I guess they just couldn't make a deal. So I have no idea what Houston was asking, but neither of those receivers go anywhere.
I have to question. There's 3 or 4 organizations I really, really question what their motivation is. Houston being one of them. I mean, that David Johnson trade it's probably the worst trade I've seen in the NFL in a long, long time. In a league where it's passing and you trade your number 1 receiver, who's maybe a top 10 receiver in the NFL, for a running back. It's baffling. That's a baffling trade. The Jets are another team that, I mean, they've been so bad for so long, yet they've made 0 progress in terms of draft picks and grooming and building guy. Like who's on their team that they can be excited about for the next 5 years?
5 years.
Quinnen Williams?
I don't know.
Nobody. You can't even name one. Most NFL teams, we can name one guy that's like, that they might not be very good right now, but this kid's someone to watch. They got nobody on the Jets. Terrible.
It used to be Adams, right? And then they traded him away.
Yeah, for nothing. I don't even think the guy that they got back from Seattle is even playing. So, I think of those teams as really, really poor decision makers when it comes to their personnel. The Giants come to mind as well.
The Giants, hey, Thursday night, no, Monday night. What day is it today? Anyway, when we were watching the game at Kirsty's house, the Giants played pretty damn well.
They played well.
Like, yeah, there's some stupid throws by Jones at inopportune times, but other than that, I thought that they played really well. They ran the ball really well. Their offensive line looked completely different than what I've seen I haven't watched a lot of Giants games since the first couple, but they were moving the ball. Anyway, yeah. I think that game alone would give me, if I was a Giant fan, a little bit of optimism to say, you know what, we can, maybe get to figure out our identity and, pound the ball a bit more and just clean up a couple of things by Jones and we'll be all right. But anyway,
the last team, my point with the teams that are the personnel, the questionable personnel,
right?
I don't question Green Bay's personnel decisions. I think what they did, certainly on the defensive end, bringing the Smith boys, that really solidified their defense last year. And I think they've always been really, really good at finding good quality secondary guys for cheap. It's offensively. I mean, and we forget Green Bay is a small market. Not a ton of money in Green Bay. I know it's a very proud franchise and history, and they sell out and Green Bay merch and all that stuff. But they're a small market. And they really, I don't even think they can afford to really overspend and get a couple of diva wide receivers where they're handcuffed for a couple of years because all their money's tied into like 2 or 3 offensive guys. So I think they're a lot like the Steelers in that regard. They don't overspend on anybody at all, ever, unless it's a homegrown guy. So, you don't see too many free agent guys go to Green Bay because they build from within, they build from the draft, but because they're so good every year, they're drafting so low. So they haven't done a good job of just finding at Rodgers weapons. And the fact that they're always 10-6, 11-5, it's a testament to Rodgers, man, whether you love him or hate him. I mean, good Lord, he's done the most with the least. And I don't even think it's close.
No, I don't think it's close either. His O-line has been pretty solid or stable, I guess is the word I'm looking for a long time. And because of that, he's been able to, like I said, he will put a ball on you and, there's no other choice but to catch it for a lot of times. And these receivers are, as long as he gets them in order, but he just makes something out of nothing.
Why is the NFL, sorry, I cut you off. Why is the NFL trade deadline not as exciting? You don't see as many splash moves in the NFL as you see in the NBA, the majors, and in hockey. I mean, hockey, they have a whole day dedicated to it. Money? Yeah. Impact? Too many guys on a team? You're not going to change your team overnight with one player?
Well, I think that's, from a blockbuster standpoint, like unless you're trading an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or something like that, the impact is not as great. Again, football is the ultimate team sport. You can't, just get one guy and change your whole dynamic, your whole outlook of the season. And there's a lot more things to consider in terms of that, that piece, how that piece fits in, as opposed to just getting that star. So I don't know if that's what it is. It never has that same impact as it would be a basketball or hockey, where it's one player can actually, when on the ice or on the court, can make a huge difference. I don't know. That's
you know what? Our next episode, we're gonna wind down here. We're reaching about 50 minutes, and I'm gonna be super late for where I'm going. No big deal. We should have top 10 impactful trades. Let's do that for next show. Your top 10, my top 10. Maybe we can invite somebody. We invite like Matt Putvin or somebody like that who might have his own top 10 impactful trades in pro sports. And one that comes to mind, like off the top of my head, would be like the Herschel Walker trade.
I was going to say Herschel Walker to the Vikings or whatever.
The Wayne Gretzky trade. I mean, that although the Oilers won another cup, but that, again, it doesn't have to be necessarily success or not. Like, I mean, it could be just the impact on the sport itself. That changed the whole landscape of hockey, really, in LA. So, right. I mean, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I got my list together.
Top 10 impactful trades.
Get a round table going.
Yeah,
actually,
because
a good opportunity to try multiple people on this thing. I think we can get up to like 6 people in this.
Let's give it a go. Because let me tell you,
We'll do it live through Facebook.
This NFL trade deadline was not impactful unless you're Avery Williamson and whoever else. It was terrible in terms of excitement. I was looking forward to it. I thought, there's going to be some big names moving here. Nothing.
No, it never is.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, let's wrap this sucker up. Let's get you to work. Again, for those looking to get into some sort of shape, PK Fitness, you help for all your fitness needs, at-home workouts, diets, all that kind of stuff. And we are going to go out to a song. So I started throwing shows in the background as I'm working. And one series that I'd gone through was Ballers, and which is basically like the sports version of Entourage, kind of, with The Rock. He's a sports financial advisor, but he's an ex-player, all that kind of stuff. There's so many parallels. So I killed that series really quick again, just looping it back. But there's so many parallels of that show with NFL and the issues around the NFL and player safety and health and longevity during that concussion, like where the hype of the concussions and understanding long-term effects of football.
Yeah.
And also paralleled with the NCAA in terms of the whole, you're taking advantage and exploiting kids without paying them, and the amount of billions that are coming in, all that kind of stuff. And it really aligns with that time frame as the show was actually airing. But to see it again was kind of again interesting. But anyway, there's one of the songs from that one. It's called "The Good Feeling" from Capital 12s. I don't know if you've heard this one before, but we're gonna go to that. Any final words?
Just hang tough, America. It's a hot mess, and just be good, be safe, and let's hope that there's a winner declared sooner than later.
Agreed. But just make sure all the votes count. Don't cut any corners. Don't whatever. And we'll get the right guy.
Through my life, I've experienced all types of feelings, sexual healing to those less appealing. Knowing to make a move when you're reeling and dealing, or when the crowd's rocking from the floor to the ceiling. But when the smoke clears, the lights just do. Can't seem to get a grip on how I'm feeling for you. Through the loss of the game, sunshine and rain days, I thought I'd never, ever see you again. The beat don't stop, and I attest to that. That's why I lay my soul down in the soul of my rap. Hearing a fat beat is like a 5-star retreat, taking on the champ without fear of defeat. If love don't kill me, the lack of it will. And if I need a little more, I'll pop a blue pill. Become the man of steel. Start just really willing. Keep hip hop with me till the end of the deal. Yeah.
When I see you, that's why I want you. The way that I do, whatever you want. Baby. Make you feel alright. You want to know. Can we stay all night? I get it.
Dark days made me wonder if I couldn't resist. The world spin made me dizzy, but I couldn't resist.